Welcome to Write Your Book Your Way, the interview series that goes behind the scenes of real self-published books to explode the myth that there's a right way to write your book and to give you the freedom to write in a way that feels good to you and gets it finished. I'm Kris Emery, owner and lead editor at Kris Emery Editorial, and I'll be interviewing my past clients, all first-time non-fiction writers and entrepreneurs, to show you how it can be done, or could be done. Today I'm talking to Alma Barrero, who I worked with as editor on her book, Style Power. Alma Barrero is an intuitive style and empowerment coach, former corporate executive, wife and mother. Her proprietary Style Power formula is a simple and life-changing reference to creating a wardrobe aligned with who you truly are. As a pioneer in blending style and soul work, Alma believes in the undeniable relationship between our unlimited power and dressing to honor our true light. She's an international speaker, mentor, author, and entrepreneur who helps people create a life-changing connection with their wardrobe while manifesting more freedom and success in their life. She's helped her clients achieve more unshakable confidence, heightened intuition, and a greater sense of self, one outfit at a time. Let's dive in to my conversation with Alma.
Okay, this is a very exciting day because today I get to talk to Alma Barrero about her book, Style Power, and it's just been launched on pre-sale. So the reason that is so special is because normally I get to speak to people way before it's gone on sale, way after, and we don't necessarily have a date for launch, but today the energy is going to be so pumped because it is in pre-release and the date is coming. So welcome, Alma.
Thank you so much.
Before we start, can you just convey a little bit about just how excited you are to be at this stage? Because I feel like the energy is very important around this book and how long it's been coming and how you've gotten to the finish point. So tell me what it means to you to be an author today.
It's such a relief. I can't even
Not excited, just relieved.
It's been, I have 2 kids and I call this my third baby. That just gives you an idea of how relieved I feel. I love talking about the book, and the fact that we were just like postponing the day to start talking about it, because I wanted to do the cover reveal with everything. I thought it was really exciting. So after Saturday, I feel like the day after graduation where you're like, wow, like it's done. We've finally reached this milestone, which was really important. I started writing this book in May of 2020.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been a long process, and all the information was flowing during the writing process. It was more and the editing that I needed to confront myself with all I had written, which was the really hard part. So I told you the other day, to me, it was like I was just waiting and looking to my phone all the time to see when Kris was going to send me an email saying, hey, I can't do anything with this.
Yes, I was really surprised by that because you seemed pumped the whole way through and really clear on what it was that you have. So let's tell everyone about what the book is. So normally what I do is hand over to you to put it in your own words, and not just what the book is, but also how it ties into what you do.
Awesome. So this book grew from a need and a push that I say it came from the universe. I kept receiving this message that I needed to share what style really meant to me. And I'm style coach. I've been in the industry for 11 years, and for at the beginning of my career, I practiced as a traditional stylist. So I was just dressing people, and I always saw that I could work much deeper with them at a much deeper level. But there was another part of me, and my ego would say, that's just nuts. Like, this is what you've always wanted to do. This is what you must be doing because this is what you like. And last year I called this book my ultimate surrender act, because I said, that's it. Like, I can't keep working without introducing what I really see. And what I see are energy shifts, are true, real connections with who my clients are. And that was the most important part of me. And it's also a call for freedom, because I would show up with just a t-shirt and be myself, and people would be like, oh my God, you're a stylist, I should have dressed myself better. I'm like, that's not the point. And people never understood what was my point. My point is the connection that you have with what you wear. That's what you project on the outside. And that's always been my, oh my God, just like get it. And I was like, how people are going to get it if I don't explain it? So I started writing, and suddenly all this information came through a whole system, from starting working from the inside to reflecting it on the outside, and all the steps throughout it. They just flew, like we're flowing from, like, I was literally feeling the energetic effect and going through my head, so through my hands, not my head, my hands, everything. But it was really important for me to point that this book came through me. I did not thought about it. It was just coming through me. So yeah. Did I answer?
Totally. So the book is essentially your signature system for how to dress people, only it's not a set of rules. It's a set of principles for getting in touch with yourself through the clothes that you express on the outside, really. So I was going to ask you how you got started, but I think it's really clear that you just had no choice in doing this. By the time it was ready to come out, it was just like you couldn't hold it back. But it is a challenging time to be launching a book that is filled with freedom and expression, and especially, like, I imagine clothing may not be a super big priority for people when it comes to, a lot of places still being locked down, and us not being able to go out in the big wide world. The world of work is changing. We might not even, go back to offices in the way we used to. So how has that played out with the book? Obviously, it's done so well in pre-sales already that there is an appetite for this. What do you think people are hungry for?
People are looking for true inner connection. I just know. And this very issue, it's what actually triggered me stopping everything and saying, that's it, I'm gonna come out and really say it how I believe it is. So I remember one day, I think the pandemic already started, and I was sitting down just with a list of topics that I had brainstormed of what people would read. And I still remember it was one that said, what type of jeans to wear depending on your body type. And I've always hated that, because, I'm not about categorizing people. I'm about unique patterns and understanding why your body is expressing the ways it is in this lifetime and honoring that. But that there is no way we can put that into cookie cutter shapes. So that's what I truly believed. And it was really hard for me to explain that type of blocks in that way. So I was like, who is gonna read this? People are in their houses. Who cares what kind of teens? And you know what? I believe that there are so many people out there that are meant to be writing about that, but I wasn't. I'm not. And this was very, like, it was really the trigger to say, okay, this is the reality. I'm at home and I'm choosing clothes that are connecting me with myself, are making me feel myself, and are helping me to connect with myself in these really challenging times. I want to talk about how to channel color and understand that there is so much more to color than looking good. That's
what goes
not
with what.
exactly.
Yeah.
And matching and there is so much information out there. They didn't need to hear that from me, or at least I didn't feel it. So that was exactly why this came triggered. And then now at this time, exactly, I see what you see, but now I feel really comfortable bringing this book out, because it's a book. It's actually a book, and it has no images inside, because I told you when we started working, the whole point, it is for everybody to understand that we all have our own pattern, and I see style as a game to honor ourselves. So you can do that with any type of clothing. And if you are at home and you're feeling down, maybe that helps you to connect with who you truly are and see that in the mirror, no matter what you're wearing. That's the whole point.
It's almost the only style book that you need for a pandemic. And you come to this conclusion in the book, it's not about the clothes, it's about who you are and how you are connecting with yourself. So just the perfect timing, really. Tell me what the process looked like. You said it poured out of you when you were actually writing, but then it came to editing, and that was quite challenging. But if we do go back to that writing step where it was just pouring out of you, and imagining somebody watching this might not know what that feels like, can you just share a little bit about what it was like sitting down in the chair and getting it all out of your head? You said you did a brainstorm and none of those things really spoke to you. So how did the brainstorm that you didn't use turn into the content of the book?
So around in 2019, I started getting familiar with the concept of soul journaling. So one of my amazing coaches, Patty Dominguez, suggested this and was like, just like when you meditate or when you do walking meditations, it was soul journaling. And what happened is that I was, so how you do, so I actually talk about it in the book. How you do soul journaling is I do it after a meditation, and I put binaural beats or any music that is inspiring me. And at the beginning, I started with a timer. Now I don't use a timer. And I just set the timer, and I just let any information flow. It's the whole thing is not letting the brain to stop the writing process. So it doesn't matter what you're writing at the beginning, might not even make any sense, but the only condition is that you don't stop writing. So it gets to a point where just writing like crazy, and I suddenly was coming up with all these sentences and all these paragraphs that I was like, whoa, there is a lot of information here that really needs to come out. So what I did was sign up for 2 weekend writing retreats where you write in a meditative state, to the point that every 15 minutes I was writing. When I started, like by the second day, I was writing maybe 1,500 words every 15 minutes. And it was like,
wow, oh my gosh, that's a lot.
So that's why, and then the information came through, and it wasn't in order. So that's why the editing process was this tricky part, because I was like, I know this needs to be in there. We just need to find where, and I also had a clear structure but also there were some pieces that we needed to move. And I really wanted to honor what my book was telling me, because I was talking to my book all the time. What do you want? What feels right? What doesn't? Da, da, da. So
that must be very confronting, having other people working on your work. And I have just written my book, Destination Author, and I just talked about that very thing, where there's two types of people. There are the people that plan, and then they flesh it out, and they're very ordered about the way they think about their book. And then there's other people who just write and flow, and they are the people who have a lot more drafts, essentially going over and over and over to shape it into something, because what flows out isn't necessarily the way that people best receive information. So there's a lot of editing to be done, but it's so cool because you were prepared for that. And I remember you saying to me, I trust you, do whatever you think is necessary. And I didn't know at the time that you were like hiding and waiting for an email saying, sorry, it's beyond repair. I didn't know that at the time, but I don't believe anything is beyond repair, because like, as long as we have the right approach and an open conversation, we can make it into something that, is good for the receiving party as good as it is.
Presentable.
Yes. That's a great word for it, presentable. So it was a lot of back and forth, and I suppose in your own process as well, when you were editing it on your side too, a lot of decisions to be made. How did you know when enough was enough, when it was just what it needed to be, and when you were done? Were you still having that conversation with your book saying like, are you ready yet? How did that go?
Are we talking about when I hand it to you, or when are we talking about? Like the time that I said, that's it, I need to hand this to Kris? Or
well, both, in fact, because there was a point where you felt ready to hand it over to editing at some point, and then there was also the back and forth between us, and I know that we did a bit more editing than we had originally talked about. So when did you feel comfortable at that stage as well? I suppose there's two questions.
Okay, so both stages, it was just my book saying stop it, and my body like literally feeling like we can't do this anymore. Like that's it, like we can't keep it editing. And also when we finish our editing process, and we had the structure clear, it just felt like I was lying to my book, like just doing, because obviously all this editing afterwards, when you think it's done, it comes more from a perfectionist part, which I have very developed. So I had to let go of that. So I physically didn't feel like doing like anymore. It was just like, no. So I interpret that as a message from up there telling me, hey, this is done. Like you don't have to keep changing it, because otherwise we're going to lose the essence of this book.
Yeah, I love that. And when you were talking about perfectionism, something popped into my head, because it's like we're measuring something that we're creating against this invisible thing that doesn't actually exist. Like there's no version of your book that is the perfect version. Those words, those sections, those sentences, they can go in any order they like. There's no like right word to put in this spot and right word to and right chapter heading or any of that kind of thing. There's only what you decide is what you're going to end on, and I think it's a really good point that you're making there about enough's enough, basically, and you have to be able to sense whether that urge to keep going is coming from this actually isn't finished in a practical sense, or whether it's coming from inside yourself and your ego telling you this isn't good enough yet. So that's something definitely to be sensitive to.
Absolutely. And I always and I want to say that even when I gave the the draft, our edited final draft, to my interior designer for the book, I was still freaking out. Like, I mean, the freaking out never ends. And now, like, when people start reading, I will still have that stuff. It's not like that evaporated at all. It's not like, oh, I'm confident this is perfect. Da, da, da. I know it's imperfect, and that's okay. That's what I wanted to share. Like, I don't feel like, oh yeah, this is it. This is ultimately da da da. Of course, like, there are insecurities and there are a lot of doubts, but I choose not to focus on those doubts, because then when is it going to be ready? Never. And as you say, we can keep editing this thing in, like, for ages. And I even asked Elle, because once the book was on the format, I was like, whoops, I found some things that I wanted to omit, like maybe 2 words I wanted to omit, or things like that. And I sent her like an Excel spreadsheet with little changes, and she was like, oh my God, this is nothing. And I was like, oh, really? Like, apparently everybody does it, but as a first author, you have no idea how this is supposed to show. So yes,
I think a lot of people get to the point where they finish writing and they think they've written the book, and there's so much to come. And actually, for first-time writers, sometimes if you do know all that is to come, you wouldn't start. So it's really helpful to focus on what you're in at the moment, you know, editing at the time, and then when you're getting it typeset, having like a post typesetting proofread and like changing those last little tiny things. But if you added it all up, you probably wouldn't even take that first step unless you didn't know how much time that was going to take. But that's fine, because it is a process, and it's going to look different for everyone, and it's going to look different from, you know, different times that you even write a book. Like, some people who have come back to me for a second or third book who have changed their process and done things differently the second time, and not necessarily felt better about it the second time around either. So what would you do differently if you were to start over, if you didn't know what you didn't know? Well, if you didn't know what you know now, obviously it would have gone exactly the same way. But if you were to start now with the knowledge that you do have, what would you change about the way that it happened?
Honestly, being hard on myself, like, for sure. I mean, that it's a real mental game. And I've got friends that have written books, but they were very technical. So the emotional aspect of it, I don't think it was as significant. But in my case, I'm actually talking about my story, like in my life, and how I came out of my shell, and how style was intertwined and in all these phases of me, like saying no more, and I'm going to be myself. So it was emotional, and I wish I had enjoyed more the process, but it was
really okay.
It was hard. It was hard. I'm like, and I keep telling everyone, I'm like, whoa, this was intense, and I would never change it, because I've grown so much thanks to it. So would I write another book? Yes, and I think I'm gonna write it. But yeah, I completely agree. If anybody had shown me like a little snippet of what it looks like being in the middle of the process before starting writing, probably my brain would be like, nah, we're not doing that, because it's, in my opinion, it was intense. Intense.
Once you've finished writing, though, you start gathering people around you, and the support that you get kind of carries you through to the end. So we wouldn't be here without your can you please show us your beautiful book again? Without your amazing designer having created this, without the typeset pages, your photographer, everything. It's really a team effort to get it to the end You must be so proud. Oh my God, it looks so good. I can't wait to have a copy in my hands as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really insightful. I'm so pleased that you touched on perfectionism, because I just know that people who are in it at the moment will be, you know, in tweak mode and you can just decide that it's done enough, and that's a really important message. By the time this video is out, the book will be, well, it's already on sale, but you'll be able, it's on pre-sale at the moment, so you can buy it right now. And Alma went through Ingram Spark to get this beautiful copy. The quality is lovely, so it's actually in all the major bookstores. How does that feel, by the way? Just before we wrap up, is it crazy to see
so cool
your book in Target?
It's so cool. I mean, I can't even. It's in like in every single country I've checked on Amazon. It's actually listed. It's just, even in Spain, where I'm from. So it's so cool. I would have never thought this would be so like easy. And I was actually talking to you about this right before we were talking about the going live, and telling you that people are like, oh my God, you must be so busy, you must be so tired, you must be da da da. And I was telling you that because I made a decision to respect my body and to not push, and realizing that we've done all this work and now it's paying off. Like all the Ingram Spark work, all the cover work, everything that I've really poured my soul onto. It's just amazing to be able to say to every single person that has reached out and been like, what can I buy my book? Oh, there you go. I've got a link for you. So yeah, I mean, it's really
So
cool.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your behind the scenes with us today. I really appreciate it, and I know that lots of people watching will get loads of value out of everything you've had to say. And congratulations and good luck with how it goes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.